Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. We appreciate you joining us and listening to our conversation about finding your purpose in retirement. Hey, gentlemen, we're back together again here for our freeform session.
We're talking without a net. You know what that means? We don't prepare for this.
We don't.
We just ask a question or we bring in somebody and we just go off the cuff. It's
But
total ad lib.
It is how we began. I mean, we all sat around a table and started talking about our purpose in retirement called Redirect. And all of a sudden, the conversation flowed and we thought everybody should have a conversation like this. And we were bold enough to believe somebody else would
Dale,
care.
We're going to
one by one.
bring everybody.
And we have John, the producer, with us today, you know, as our special guest.
John McDaniel.
Yeah.
Well,
Dale,
okay,
give us a...
John McDaniel. John and I have worked together for 40 years. John owned his own business in sound for years and did radio, TV, and he became a producer for us, producing some of the biggest experiences that we've ever done. John's skill at bringing in together all the elements of what makes a great experience is what made him so valuable to us. And when I think about your career from my perspective, John, it all came together in
the last 5 years that we
last
spent
5
together.
years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But you decided to retire in December from our company, Hyperquake, and would love to get your perspective on how's it going.
There's one word I've been using with most people right now, and that is disorienting. Mm. And part of it has been the holidays, and especially the way the holiday calendar fell this year. A lot of people said they have felt rather disoriented by the holiday.
Fell on a Wednesday.
It fell on a Wednesday, so everybody's like, are you working Monday? Yeah, maybe. Might be a half a day, and then they take Tuesday off, and then it's Wednesday, and who wants to work the day after Christmas or you don't work on New Year's? So there were these interstitial little days that some people worked.
Yep.
So everybody felt like they were in limbo for a good 2 weeks. And then I retired a week before all that started, and now we're about a week plus. We haven't had a normal Monday for about 5 weeks. That really started a full week where there wasn't something going on. So it's been a little disorienting, and every once in a while, what day is it?
Yeah.
But I've been busy. I've found some things to do. I've been helping out a local theater group out in Loveland Stage Company. A friend of mine out there who retired a couple of years ago has been helping out and got me involved, and we're installing acoustic panels in their large theater that were donated by a church. So we're treating the place, trying to make it sound better. So I spent all day yesterday, physical labor, cutting wood, helping a guy up and down a lift.
Let me go back for you a little bit. Okay, you're still in this period. It just seems like an extended holiday still, right? Vacation to vacation. So it really hasn't really soaked in yet. What were your expectations prior to you setting a date when you said, hey, I'm going to be retiring probably in the next year or so? What did you envision?
I don't think I had a vision. I don't think I had. I didn't spend much time thinking about it because we were all about the work, trying to get the work done. And actually, truth be told, Dale,
he pushed you.
Well, my last day at work was supposed to be the end of August. It was the end of September. Then it was in October. And then we made it. We got it done in December. Yeah, I wanted to finish some jobs for some friends that you and I share. Yeah. And they wanted me to complete the work, and I said they were kind enough to work with me with advance notice.
Sure.
I had a fantastic employer who didn't say, okay, you're out the door. I know you're leaving. They slowly tapered my work schedule, my client load, and my project load until we came to a successful end on several projects before I left. I was pretty much focused on the work, and we got some things to figure out here in January that if we had our act together, we would have done in November or December, but that's okay.
Yep.
It sounds like as you're approaching the finish line, you're project focused. I mean, you've got some heavy lifting to do to get some key elements across the finish line. Are those tasks still following you? Are people still pursuing you for project closeout details? Are you done?
Yeah, from a project and client standpoint, totally and completely done. Yeah, I've taken 2 phone calls in the last 5 weeks of somebody. One of them was trying to find a file somewhere that I had never even touched. It was legacy even before me, but it was just what do I do? How do I answer this question? And I was happy to
So
help.
this is really fresh.
Yeah.
Considering and all of the disorientation we were talking about.
The holidays and all that.
And have you caught your stride yet? You said you've had some things to do. What are you doing 2 months from now?
I'd like to be doing something and that gains me a little bit of money.
Okay.
Side hustle.
Yeah, a couple of things going on there.
Maybe producing a podcast or something.
Possibly, yeah. We're in negotiation right now.
We'll double your pay right now.
Okay, well, it's done. Well, I'm doing the nonprofit thing, helping out this theater, and I'm going to be fairly involved in that on a regular basis. And I'm looking for other things to do in that area, some things that are sort of maybe underserved in a way, one way or another, and need some help from whatever expertise I can bring to a situation. I know somebody who's got some documentary aspirations that needs advice, and people have always come to me over the years for help with things or advice on things, or there's a few people in the business who have ended up scattered around the country we've had a continued relationship, kind of mentor relationship.
But you're thinking about what that might look like. I'm very interested in your wonderful wife, Penny, now has you at home. Have you guys talked about redistribution of jobs? Because you are on the road a ton and gone a lot, and you had the opportunity to certainly work from home, but this is going to be new for her as well as for you. How do you manage that?
I don't think it's that much different. I think two things helped us sort of slide into this. One of them would be the pandemic and working from home.
True.
And the other would be she considers herself semi-retired. She works about half time or half load. And she's got a women's group that goes out for lunch on a regular basis. And so it's like at this date. And she's got activities with a choir she sings in that's very, very active and does a lot of things outside their regular duties at a church. So we've always had busy schedules. And yesterday I was gone for 9 hours because I was working with this theater, trying to get it in shape to open some shows up.
Talk to us for a second about what appeals to you about this redirect endeavor. I'm sure there's probably a bit of an itch that gets scratched with the producing of it because you have an expertise. It's just come so natural to you. Is there anything philosophically that connects with you?
Now you're getting out the hard questions.
Yeah, it was fluff until now.
Well, I think a lot of the questions that come up that you're trying to figure out, how does this relate to the experience of the people who are around the table and guests? You know, it's a two-way street for everybody. And if you're talking, you're not listening. And if you're listening, you're probably learning. So if you have an opportunity to listen, you have a huge opportunity to learn. If your mouth is running, you're probably not learning. And you may not be teaching anybody else too. So I'm a little quieter. I tend to stay a little bit behind the scenes. I try to do a lot of listening because I'm going to learn something one way or the other. And so this is an opportunity to listen times 3, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's a lot of what appeals to me about it. And I love digging into subjects. Dale and I have worked for clients with a lot of very disparate interests. And whenever I dive into a project, I feel like I've become a subject matter expert in whatever that client does, because of the listening. And to serve them in their project as well, I need to know them and their product or their service or their business, nearly as well as they do in order to help them express what that means to their customers.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to listen, and listening means learning.
Very cool.
Not to put you on the spot, but we are, because that's what Freeform's all about. First time I met you, and again, it's amazing how God works, that all of a sudden here's a gentleman that comes in here, a good friend of Dale, and has had experience in the TV and the radio industry for 25 years and is willing to help us to get this podcast launched. And it's just amazing how things happen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, we were talking at that point, and then I do what I do with the redirect you concept, is that's working with people one-on-one and or even in a small group fashion. I happen to send you my plan. Now, he's smiling right now. He's got
I already have an answer for this.
I have this plan that I put together because I needed something like that. It's something I used as a tool from work. There was a strategic account plan that I turned into my strategic plan, and has the imperatives and the focus areas and the drivers and the enablers and how I network, and then I build things silent. So yeah, very complex, but I needed that. I am curious on what you meant when you send me the response back and said, wow.
It was highly organized. There was a lot in it. And I found it intimidating a little bit because I'm a very detail oriented. And if I'm going to do something, I'm looking at every single detail, and I will get bogged down in somebody asks me a question, I want to give the exact answer, right?
That's the engineer side of you, right?
And so a whole long series of questions, and I'm starting to think check boxes, plans to get from point A to point B to point C to point D. I'm not on my plan. It's like my project is behind. It felt there's so much to answer to.
Yeah.
That I was like, am I going to get stressed over
the creation of the plan?
Well, the creation of the plan and then adhering to it.
WIP, baby. It's a work in progress.
I know. And that's not to, I thought it was great stuff. There's a lot in it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it per se. I think different people learn in different ways and tackle things in a different way. I'm a part to whole person. I can look at a whole bunch of stuff scattered on the table, and I can imagine what that would be assembled. My wife is not a part to whole person. She's a whole to part. She's got to see the entire picture and everything in it, and then look at one thing in that picture and say, okay, I want that wall to be that color, or I want the stove to be stainless steel. But if I show her a bunch of pictures of a whole bunch of things, she can't imagine those coming together. And there's nothing wrong with being one or the other, because there are things that are good and bad about being one at the other, But looking at the whole,
overwhelming.
It was overwhelming to me. I needed to tackle it by parts a little bit.
Yeah. I have to admit, it was a therapeutic thing for me that while I was working, I created this in my off time just so that I felt a little bit more comfortable on that Monday. Mm-hmm. That, okay, you got a plan, and you said you were going to go work out with your son.
Right.
And I go work out with my son. And surprisingly enough, I'm doing it all. And now it's time for me to refine it and change it.
I think that's an important word, refine, because a writer's best friend is an eraser. The more you refine, the more tuned your message gets. And if you can say it in less words and still get the message through, then you've accomplished economy. And time and economy are so valued right now, people don't want to even give you any time. On one of our projects, Dale, I did a series of interviews with people who were affected by genomic therapy that saved their lives or the lives of a loved one. And I captured those stories, and we had a target length for the story. She had culled material from a 20-minute interview down to about a 3-minute piece. It's like, well, this has to be under 2. Oh, but that's such a great line. It's such a great line. You got to prioritize, and you got to be vicious with the eraser and really find the things that really say something well, and those things that you sort of fell in love with and thought you had to have. It's surprising how well you can do without them. Weird story. You know the movie Caddyshack?
Oh, yeah.
There was a thing floating around just flipping channels on cable and getting ready to go to bed, and I got sucked into this thing about the backstory of the whole making of the movie.
I've seen that.
Big hitter, the llama.
So do you know what the first edit of that movie was 4.5 hours long?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And they got it down to 115 minutes. That's under 2 hours. So they cut that thing down by that.
More than half.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
the
anyway.
guide for that is the impact on the audience. You can't lose sight of that. And you're saying you just got to keep prioritizing the biggest points, the biggest things. They're going to accomplish that feeling that you want people to have.
Yes.
And
they may not be big. They could be very small, but the impactful.
Guys, this might be a good chance to take a quick break. All right? We'll be right back. Hey there. If you're enjoying this episode, we've got a small favor to ask. Actually, it's a pretty big one. Take a moment to like and share this episode with your friends and family. Then, follow the Redirect Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep bringing you great content every week. And if you really want to make a difference, drop us a 5-star review. Those reviews will help us spread the word and keep the community growing. So hit that follow button, share it with a friend, and let us know what you think. We really appreciate you guys. Now, let's get back to it.
But related to a retirement plan,
Right.
is wow. Yeah, I really want to, if I want to serve God, I want to serve others, I want to do something. There's so many things you can do. Now you got to start going through that process. You've got to make decisions. You've got to decide what are those things that really make you happy, that really serve that purpose.
Right.
So to Dale's point, let me try to mesh together Curt's plan, his methodology of assembling that kit to help strategically put together your plan for retirement, and John's approach to as much as possible on the cutting room floor. Right?
Yeah.
So let's put
Two different sides of that spectrum.
That's right. What I appreciate about your approach, Curt, is if you identify a big thing that needs to happen, you're eating this elephant, you incrementalize it. You take that thing one bite at a time. You break it down to elements that you can conquer, segment, simplify, reduce. And in your professional world, you accomplish a lot by incrementalizing those goals. I think there's a lot of strategy to setting out a plan and identifying all of the core elements and how do I accomplish these things. It lets you track success. It lets you incrementalize goals so you can celebrate along the way certain victories. I'll pause for comment on that.
it's also brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And when I created my plan was also a whiteboard for me to identify things that interested me for participation. Okay, I said I want to, help with my son who has some special needs and trying to help him become more independent. How am I going to do that? Well, I reached out to all of the disabled organizations and met with people to talk about their service, talk about my son. Two-pronged win. A, it could help my son, and B, it could help me understanding what I need to do for my son potentially down the road. And it was therapeutic. It was whiteboard. It was throwing stuff out there, putting me out there into different places to say, hey, let's experiment.
So, let me crash that up against John's approach of as much as possible on the cutting room floor.
Well, I don't want to confuse making a whole piece, which exists as an entity, which is a movie. It could be a sculpture. It could be a house.
A strategic retirement plan.
Yeah. I'm not saying that there should be so much on the cutting room floor. I didn't mean to introduce it as that kind of a.
I like the dramatic effect. That's why I went for it.
Adam likes to pick on me too,
but
so
I
it's
think,
good.
I was overwhelmed by just the number of considerations within all of the subcategories. But that's part of that I feel like is a weakness in me, just being overwhelmed by so much and the inability to just snap off answers to all those questions because it felt like, this almost feels like a test.
Yeah.
Because
when I have a given
which is
product,
great for brainstorming. You're talking about brainstorming and you're talking about a final product. I think for what you have now, that's fantastic for brainstorming.
Yeah.
But when you turn that brainstorming material into something for somebody else, they don't need to go through the storm part with you. They just need the brain part.
Right. Right. So maybe that first page, which is the summary page of everything, is probably something that's more appealing to you because it's concise. It's the 50% of all the pages behind it to create that.
Almost like a dashboard.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly right. Exactly right. So,
And you'll go deep on any one of those areas.
Absolutely.
As you feel.
right.
And as I
because
get,
you can.
and as I wade my way through it. You know.
So making all of that apply to specifically helping people as they retire, or folks that are in retirement not yet living with a guide in their day. Help us mesh together that big brainstorm strategic retirement plan and simplifying it down to doable elements. What advice would we give to folks who have freshly retired, hypothetically, mere weeks into it, and finding purpose in retirement?
I think the transition, and you've heard me say this before, the transition, at least for me, the transition from career to this thing called retirement is not for me to be still and not for me to sit on my couch. Fine, I'm going to have those retirement days. But I also want to be able to find out that there's other things out there that I've never done before. Mm-hmm. But unless I take that step out of this comfy little box that I've been in for 35 years, I'll never know. So why have a regret to say, I've always wanted to play the guitar, but I never got it out of the case. Get it out of the case, play with it.
I think because I'm close to retiring from what I'd been doing for the last, 35, 40 years. Everybody looked at me and said, you're going to be so busy. And I'm like, well, why are they saying that? And it's because I used to identify all these things I'm going to do. I've already jumped into a couple things that I want to leverage what was my strengths in my career and successful relationships. And now identifying the things right in front of me, I'm starting to make choices. I'm not going to do that because does that line up with the big goal, which is going to be serving people? And you know what? We've got just this, I call it the next 30. Yeah. We got time. What we have right now is our time and our health. Fortunately, a lot of us are making decisions now on what ladders up to that overall objective and making decisions based on that and things that make me happy. I have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
The freedom to do that is scary. It's scary for those who want to do a million different things because we've got to employ a discipline that John's talking about, and that's throwing some of this on the editing floor.
Yeah, I don't think you have to come to it with a list either, because discovery can be part of the good part of it. And when you own a recording studio like I did for 23 years, I get a lot of calls from clients, friends, people that I meet who call me up and say, my son or daughter wants to make
cut an album.
Sure.
Have a career in the recording business in some way. They love music and they want to be a music producer, or they love films and they want to work on a film scoring stage and do recording or whatever. And I always made time to have their kids come in. And I would try to give them a very real picture of what was possible or not, given their circumstances and situation. But I always tell them, you want to be in this area, don't turn down anything, even if you think it's something that you're not going to want to do. If it's tangentially related to this small little universe, don't say no to anything. Go do it. Because a lot of people have found what they want to do by just saying yes to something and then discovering, oh, I didn't think I was going to like this, but I do like it. In fact, I not only like it, this is what I want to do. So you're cutting yourself off from a lot of opportunities when you say no. And I recall another experience downtown when I was working for a long time ago for some nonprofits that put on events and things like that. And there was a couple I knew that lived downtown. This is when living downtown was not cool. Very few people lived downtown.
Too long ago.
But it was a husband and wife. I would always see them at concerts, outdoor events, Taste of Cincinnati, Oktoberfest. And I had known him from some board position when I was on or something, and had met his wife a few times. But I'd always see them, and we'd wave and exchange a few words. And one day I was like, I see you everywhere I go. I see you. You guys are so busy. And he said, hey, when we retired, we made a commitment to each other that we would never say no to any kind of invitation. If somebody has asked you to be somewhere, if somebody has asked you to be somewhere and has been kind enough to invite you, whether it's for dinner or to go to a show or do whatever, he said that's why we're not stuck in the house doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I have found so many situations where my wife has pulled me along to go to do something.
Right.
And then I make a connection with somebody that connects to something else. And if I would never have done that first step, I would have never have been where I turned out to be.
Yeah, don't be a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
And that's the description of my entire career. I was at Procter & Gamble, being happily in the brand industry, until somebody said, you want to have lunch with this guy? And had lunch with this guy and changed my career that day. Yeah. It was free lunch. I said yes, and did it twice. I think my advice I give to anybody is never say no to an invitation, because you just don't know who you're going to run into, how you're going to connect, and where it might go. And it's fascinating. And I love the fact that we can.
It's okay that you don't have a list.
Okay.
It's where for all that long thing that came after. But I was going to say, it's okay not to have a list of things that you want to do or know. Say, hey, this is what I'm going to pursue. Discovery is part of the process.
Yeah.
I think that takes some pressure off.
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of people where that approach of mapping out a portion or most of the plan. I need to know where I'm going and how I'm going to get there. I think there's a lot of people that resonates with. That helps people who hadn't yet attacked a large decision with such intentionality. That helps them create a framework for such a decision. Additionally, there are some people that might find that a little bit intimidating. And so some quality takeaways. Don't say no to an invitation. A quote of the day I think might be, don't be a stick in the mud, and get out there. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were saying something earlier, Adam, and my plan is like training wheels on a bike. It gets you stable. It gets you to be able to do something. But then once you discover the freedom, take off the training wheels and just ride to wherever you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about how introductions and lunches and contacts and invitations to dinners, this table right here is an extension of something that I did not know existed 4 years ago. And to me, it is a blessing that I reached out to you, Adam, and reached out to you, Dale, to talk about where I was and how Redirect You and Redirect Podcast has come to life. And that is just, as I keep saying all the time, it's 100% proven in me. Because when I get up in the morning, I've got purpose. I've got something that I want to get behind. I got something I want to do. I'm meeting new people like John, and John's educating me on things that are being done here in the recording studio. And that's what life needs to be. Just like one of our guests that we had that told his story, Roy Ellsbury. Just keep moving and keep going out and talking to people.
So good. John, great to have you on our freeform conversation.
And on the team.
And on the team. That's right.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, John.
Thanks very much, John. Great day. We want to thank Gianna DeMona and the University of Cincinnati 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to use the eSports recording studio to record our podcasts. The Redirect Podcast music is from Sound Gallery by Dimitri Taras. Want more information on how to redirect your purpose in retirement? Check out the Redirect-U website at redirect-u.com. Check out the latest Redirect Podcast episode, as well as see all the Redirect episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Do you have something you want to share? Do you have a question about your redirect strategy? Please email us at info@redirect-u.com. We want to hear from you. Remember, there is purpose in your life, So find it and go do something about it.